Robin Hood is in a race against time. Success will mean saving the life of his only daughter. In this race, losing is not an option.
My daughter is going to die unless a cure is found, so I've got to do everything that I can to help raise the money that's needed to find a cure. All I want to do is not go to my daughter's funeral. I want her to live. That's all I want.
Robin's search for a cure has taken over his and his family's life. He's become so obsessed that he's chosen to make a huge sacrifice for Alex.
You have one message.
Hello, Daddy. Happy Father's Day. Love you. Bye.
Alex lives 300 miles away, and Robin sees her just a handful of times a year. She suffers from a rare genetic disorder called epidermolysis bullosa, or EB. There are 300 children in Scotland with the condition, and 1 in 250 of us carry the gene for EB. It means that Alex's skin blisters and tears with the slightest contact. And for her whole life, she's had to endure daily dressing changes. It's an agonizing process, not only for sufferers, but also for the parents who must inflict the pain of treatment.
Every morning it takes 3 or 4 hours to get Alex ready for the day. And the pain is that bad now, she has to have morphine every 4 hours.
It's very, very intense. And I've been doing it for 13 years. Whatever anyone says, they'll say, oh, well, you're used to it. You'll never get used to it. It's always awful. Always awful. Can imagine putting a needle into your daughter to burst blisters. You know, nobody, unless you've been there, you can't imagine it.
It wasn't the life Robin and Virginia had in mind when they moved with their 8-year-old son to their home near Castle Douglas 14 years ago.
What was it that first drew you to Scotland?
I've been coming to Scotland since 1974, and I just love the scenery, I like the people, and my record for coming in any one year were 29 visits in 1 year.
There's one thing to enjoy being here, it's another to up sticks and come here. So what happened?
Big turning point in my career. I decided that I didn't want to work in the rat race, and Virginia and I were driving past here and saw the house for sale. I said, right, that's it, that's where we're going to move to. And we up sticks and moved.
But what a different life.
Yes, what a wonderful different life. It was excellent. We've been married for 8 years when we moved here, 10 years, and it was like we found each other again. It was lovely.
And then what happened when Alex was born?
Very dark days. She was born on the 5th of February 1989 and born healthily. I held her for seconds. Came home to tell everybody that mother and baby were fine, all the relatives, and went back to the Creswell in Dumfries about 4 hours later. And Virginia was absolutely distressed, standing over Alex's cot, and all the skin was missing off Alex's feet. It was horrible. And then as the nurses picked Alex up, they took more and more skin off her body, and then eventually they decided that she needed to go into the intensive care unit, and Virginia and I were only allowed to go and visit Alex with gowns and masks on.
Alex was eventually diagnosed with dystrophic EB. It's the second worst strain of the disease, and it's fatal. Victims rarely survive into their 30s.
They said, oh, she'll live till mid-adult lifehood, which was years in the future, so that didn't matter, so we just got on with life.
Dad, I've been doing this new project at school about pink.
Absolutely.
My favourite pop person.
Favourite what?
Pop person.
What is EB?
EB is a genetic condition. Everybody who hasn't got EB has got a chemical called collagen 7, which attaches your skin to your flesh. Now, if you've got EB, you haven't got collagen 7 in its right format, so your skin will not stay stuck to your flesh. So the slightest rub or knock or any friction will cause a blister.
That's nearly right, isn't it? So what's my favourite group?
Pink Floyd, yes.
It's not impossible to touch children with EB. While small amounts of pressure are bearable, sudden friction is very damaging.
When Alex was about 4 and Virginia was in our local town of Castle Douglas with her, and Alex stumbled, and instinctively Virginia grabbed hold of Alex's hand to try and stop her falling and was left with a glove of skin, and Alex fell to the floor with a red raw hand.
Why is it fatal?
It's fatal because children with Alex's type of EB have so many sores and so many sore areas on the body that their blood goes around their body trying to heal these sore areas. So consequently the blood becomes of a poor quality, their iron levels drop, and if your iron level drops below a certain level then you become anemic and you die. And the other side effect, Alex has a weak heart. Because Alex's heart is getting messages from her brain to say, look, you've got so many infected areas, pump faster to keep pace with the infections. Alex's heart is pumping as though she's just run a 100-metre race 24 hours a day. She's also got osteoporosis, so she's in a pretty sorry state.
As Alex grew up, Robin could see that time was running out for her and became desperate to do something to help. When he received compensation money after a car crash, he offered to work full-time as a volunteer for Deborah, the charity that supports sufferers of EB.
Virginia and I could see Alex deteriorating, and I rang John Dart up, who's Deborah's director, and said, look, I'll work for you on a voluntary basis for 6 months, and because I want to help. If I don't do any good, then I'll walk away. And in that first 6 months, I raised £40,000.
So when you started working with Deborah, did you think that you could change things?
Yes, and quite arrogantly, I said to Virginia, I'll do this in 3 years.
You said you were going to do what in 3 years?
Get enough money to find a cure within 3 years. I promised Alex initially that she'd have a cure by the time she was 12.
Alex is now 14. Robin has clearly missed his first deadline, but he still tells Alex he's going to get her a cure.
The first time he did that, she got really upset about it, and I said to her, well, you can't expect that to happen. Science isn't like that. They might find a cure the next day, but then they could be a long way away. In one sense, I suppose it gives her a little bit of hope to think that somebody's saying, oh, by the time that gets there. But if she's got me saying to her, yes, but it's science, and although Dad says you'll get the cure by the time you're 12 or whenever,
No thanks,
you know that that's what he really wants to do, and he wouldn't say it if he didn't really want it to happen.
So the sequins have all fallen off on that. I'll have to stick them back on soon.
Robin is now a paid director of Deborah in Scotland. The charity directly funds the research into a cure, and with such a personal stake in the cause, Robin is utterly focused on his goal. He works 6 days a week, travelling around Britain, using his own story to persuade companies and individuals to donate.
Well, the reason that I'm involved is because my daughter Alexandra, who's 13, has the condition.
So what does this actually represent?
This is one of my scrapbooks, and this represents the last 9 years that I've been working for Deborah. It just helps spreading the word about EB.
Just looking at some of the things you've been doing, particularly, she looks so, there's a really bad sore here.
She used to, as a baby, she used to suffer quite a lot when she'd turn over. When she got splints on, she used to try and wipe sweat from her brow with the splints and then cause these devastating. But she's got better now. But when this photograph was taken, she said, oh, look at this sore area on my head, Daddy. She said, that's good, because the people who look at this will know how bad it is to have EB.
You can see here she's got her bandages on her legs.
That was the day when...
And her hand.
That was the day when she fell down in Castle Douglas and all the skin came off her hand. And that was like that for several months.
And she can still smile, though.
Yeah.
Is this important to you, a nightmare for Alex?
I don't show Alex this. She wants to be normal, and this is not normal for her. She doesn't want to see her face in the papers. She doesn't enjoy it. But I've told her that we need to get publicity to raise the money that's needed to find a cure.
How do you actually make that connection between your daughter's illness and an actual sum of money that's going to save her life? Because there isn't a cure at the moment.
No, but because Deborah has been funding research into a cure for EB for it's our 25th anniversary next year. They know where their successes have been, and they also know where their failures have been. So they've got a fairly accurate idea of how much money is left needed to raise a cure, and that figure is about £8 million.
In the 9 years since he started, Robin has completely changed the way that Deborah operates and has raised millions of pounds.
But you can add all that. The general public, who just are the mainstay of our fundraising, it's vital to us to our survival. So every pound that we get is a pound nearer, and we survive on small amounts of money. For example, this person, I don't know who it is, has been sending me about £1 a week for the last 8 years, and in it there's just a £1 note, and it says, God bless. There you go. God bless. That is a lot of money to that person sending that every week, and I appreciate that as much as I appreciate a big cheque. Every single person gets a thank you letter, and it explains where the money's gone and what we're doing with it.
Robin's raised so much money that Scottish children with EB have better support and services than anywhere else in the world. But his focus is on fundraising for a cure. Today he's visiting one of the top research teams in the country, based in Dundee.
Hello, Owen.
Big lad.
How you getting on?
Good to see you.
Yeah,
to
good.
see you.
What's new?
I
Anything?
think Robin likes to be very involved in the research and finding out what's happening, and he is in obviously the prime place to find out all the information, and I think he enjoys being in control.
The scientists hope that they will eventually be able to replace the bad gene in children with EB with a corrected gene that will ultimately produce healthy skin.
Yeah, they're pretty expensive as well.
Although they've estimated it will take £8 million, they also know that, as with any cutting-edge research, there are no guarantees. But the goal does seem tantalisingly close.
5 years ago, I would have said we were working very hard and getting nowhere fast, but everything seems to just be taking off quickly now, and I'm very hopeful that something very positive is going to happen in the next few years. I'm absolutely certain there'll be a cure. At one day, it's determining when that day will be. There's children being born now have a better chance than any other EB children born in the past for having a cure in their lifetime. It's the ones who are already young adults that we worry most about, because we can't determine the time.
Does Alex know her prognosis?
No. She knows that Daddy's going to raise the money to get her a cure.
But you don't know that.
I don't know that, but I'm going to have a good try to make sure that I fulfil her wish and my desire.
But she knows that she's not well, and there's no sign at the moment of her getting better. But she doesn't know it's a fatal condition. She's older now.
She does know that it's a fatal condition, yes, because the Deborah charity produce a booklet quarterly, and in there, the obituary column at the back, she knows that there's children in there that have died at an earlier age than Alex is at now.
And describe to me what you've said to Alex about the purpose of the work.
I've told Alex that they've identified the 10 genes responsible for the condition now, and they are talking about starting clinical trials within the next 2 years, provided we can get the money needed to enable that to happen. And I've told her how they think that they're going to administer the effective treatment when it's available, and I'm sure that I can make sure that Alex is one of the first ones to get whatever it is when it's available. And what Alex wants to hear is, right, next Tuesday is the day that you're going, so that they can start giving you their treatment. And I think that goes for the majority of people in Britain who've got a child with EB. You know, talking about next year or year after next, you know, they want to know, give us a date, give me the date when my child can go.
On the way back from the labs, Robin is visiting Diane Forsyth, whose 4-year-old daughter, Adana, has EB.
Hiya, Diane. How are you getting on? Hello.
Good to see you.
I'm up seeing Professor McLean, so I thought I'd come and say hello.
Excellent.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm getting to be a big girl, aren't you? Do you want to come through? I'm just
Yes,
waiting to
please.
start her dressing, so...
Are you? All right.
If you don't mind.
No.
We've got to just do a couple of bits, darling. Sorry, Robin. Need earplugs for the next bit. I just want to take the dirty dressings off this knee.
I do everything that I do for Alex, and the fact that Adana's going to get a cure is a tremendous bonus.
Very.
I can see the pain, I can see it's Adana, but I can see Alex when she was 4.5. I don't know where they get their determination from. You can't catch EB, but I think that if people who'd had a good quality of life did get EB, they wouldn't be long before they commit suicide because the pain is so horrendous.
Come on. Remember about your Barbie. Think about the fairies on the flower.
It's a horrendous condition. Got to be the most awful genetic condition known to mankind. Count to 12 for me.
Right, we're nearly done.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Oh, goodness.
So good at it, aren't you? Blisters on your bottom.
Adana will definitely be live into the period when the cure is available, without a doubt.
Fish. Fish.
Robin being at the front line in the fundraising makes me feel like the treatment is going to be close. He's not only fighting for his daughter Alex, but he's also fighting for Adana, and he's fighting for all the other children he's known and become close to. You know, doing it from his heart. He really does work from his heart.
Despite his successes, Robin has paid a personal price for the effort he's put in. 8 years ago, Virginia and Alex moved out of the family home.
He was away a lot, and I needed him to be there for me, and he wasn't. I needed support. And then when Robin did come back, he was never pleased to see us. He was always on to the next challenge. It wasn't even sit and have a cup of tea and a chat, and he didn't give the children any time or anything. He got totally obsessed with the whole thing.
In hindsight, I was wrong. I was wrong, and I didn't support Virginia. But it's my nature. If there's a job to be done, then and I'll keep working until it's done.
And I spoke to him on quite a few occasions and said, unless he makes the effort to be there more for me, then I was going to leave and come down to him.